Hello there, Reject Nation. I'm Greg Alba.
I'm John Humphrey.
We have been sent a video that with the title of it, it's got a yellow dollar bill sign.
Oh, good.
Top 10 most, I think, violent comedy movies. This is from Watchmojo.com. Requested from YouTuber Andrew Hayes.
Hey,
That's how
buddy.
you spell his name. It's right here, right now. Let's watch this.
These films busted a lot of guts. Welcome to Watchmojo.com, and today we'll be counting down our picks for the top 10 most violent comedy movies. Before we begin, we publish new videos every day, so be sure to subscribe for more great content. For this list, we'll be looking at the comedy films with the most violence.
How old is this
There are a
video?
lot of films out there that take violence to hilarious extremes, but for this list, we're really focusing on films that are comedies, or action comedies, horror comedies, etc., and ranking them based on how well they mesh comedy and violence.
I think I'm just gonna head back to your place. I'm not really liking it very much over there, Fangos.
Number 10, Team America, World Police.
Terrorize this.
Puppets aren't usually what spring to mind when you think of violence, but this satirical action comedy features plenty of it. Following the titular hyper-violent fictional American police force, Team America World Police parodies the country's militaristic policing of the world, as well as those who oppose it, in incredibly over-the-top fashion, while also paying tribute to classic puppetry seen in shows like Thunderbirds. The action features explosions and graphic, bloody deaths that are nevertheless extremely silly, which helps contribute to the overall tongue-in-cheek tone of the film.
Gary?
Number 9, Snatch.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's pretty violent.
A criminal-centric comedy set in London, Snatch follows an ensemble cast of gangsters and crooks in several interconnected plots, primarily focused on a diamond that changes hands numerous times, and a
Diamond.
boxer and his promoters. The film contains numerous acts of violence, including beatings and murders, with some of them verging into the territory of downright absurd.
You need at least 16 pigs to finish the job in one sitting, so be wary of any man who keeps a pig farm.
Like, for example, one man's bizarre, detailed description of how pigs eat corpses, or the Russian who just won't die. Sorry, Uzbekistanian.
A Russian?
Well, to be technical, he's an Uzbekistanian, but...
All in all, Snatch is a hilariously violent ride through the London underworld that will have both you and its characters in stitches. Number 8, Evil Dead 2.
Oh, yeah, this is 8. Thought it
The
to be
second
higher up.
installment in a series that
Yeah, a
perfectly
little
blends
bit.
comedy and horror. Evil Dead 2 sees its protagonist, Ash Williams, continue his battle with the eponymous evil that plagues him. While it acts as something of a remake to the original, the film exceeds it by upping both the comedy and the violence, with gallons of gore and some truly hysterical scenes, such as Ash's breakdown, which features puppets and him cutting his own hand off. Evil Dead 2 won't be the last horror comedy on our list, but it's easily the grooviest.
Groovy.
Number 7, Seven Psychopaths.
Should have brought that gun.
That's pretty violent.
Don't believe him.
So is
One
in
of the most
Bruges.
bizarre comedies on our list, Seven Psychopaths follows a writer trying to finish a screenplay of the same name. However, when he attempts to draw inspiration from real-life psychopaths, he soon finds himself in the middle of a disturbing and violent, albeit darkly funny, series of events.
I don't know who you are or why you're here, and I don't know if you do know where the Shih Tzu is or if you don't know where the Shih Tzu is, but either way, have some pride.
Despite being chock full of murders, shootouts, and tense standoffs, the movie is still a comedy, and it uses violence to emphasize
Spoilers.
the outrageous personalities of its characters and their offbeat dialogue. The meta aspect of the film is fantastic too, as the film operates in a way that is very self-aware of its own medium.
Put your hands up. No.
What?
I said no.
Number 6, Crank. What if the bus from Speed was a guy? Hitman Chev Chelios finds himself poisoned by
That's
a
the
synthetic
pitch.
drug that
That's
inhibits
a
the
good
flow
way
of
to
his
put
adrenaline,
that.
forcing him to seek out exhilarating and dangerous situations while he searches for a cure. The constant barrage of outlandish antics Chelios puts himself through to keep himself alive.
Crank
are
2 is
hysterical
much
and
worse.
often intense, while his simultaneous quest for revenge on the people who did it to him is brutal and often just as funny. Crank offers thrills and laughs alike, and both will have your heart beating faster.
You like that one, tough guy?
Number 5,
Ooh.
Deadpool. After Wade Wilson is tortured, disfigured, and given abilities that cure his cancer, he sets out to find the man responsible in a snarky rampage of revenge as the volatile, wisecracking anti-hero Deadpool. Wade's powers allow him to quickly regenerate from nearly any injury, and he deals out and receives plenty in the film's blood-splattered, over-the-top action scenes. Along with the gruesomely giggle-worthy violence, Deadpool openly mocks the trappings of superhero movies through its titular protagonist's signature meta-humor.
Did I leave the stove on?
This superhero film earned its R rating with buckets of blood, but it also more than delivered on the laughs, a combination that had cinema-goers begging for more.
Deadpool
9,
2 is
10,
more
11,
like.
12 bullets or bust.
Number 4. This is the End.
No, this really
While we're on the
qualifies.
subject of meta-humor, here we have another movie that loves to play with the fourth wall. This is the End follows a group of celebrities playing caricatures of themselves as they attempt to deal with an apocalyptic disaster erupting around them. It's egos versus the end of the world. Although many of the team behind the film had already made a foray into intense, action-oriented comedy with Pineapple Express, This is the End upped the ante with uproarious Hollywood and celebrity mockery, as well as violence that's way more graphic and way more absurd. Number 3, Shaun of the Dead. When a slacker and his
This
friends
is
try
the
to
End
keep
is
their
more
friends and
violent.
loved ones safe during a zombie apocalypse, the results are simultaneously half-assed, gory, and awesome. Like many good zombie movies, there's a ton of blood and guts, but Shaun of the Dead both mocks and pays tribute to the tropes of the genre, while providing a heaping dose of its creator's signature humor and an epic, albeit mildly toxic, romance. All told, it makes for a film that's truly a slice of fried gold.
How's that for a slice of fried gold?
Yeah, boy!
Number 2, Zombieland. Speaking of zomcoms, Zombieland is a post-zombie apocalyptic comedy that sees a group of strangers meet on the road and subsequently share misadventures while battling the living dead on their journey across America. Think of it as Undead Road Trip, but with far fewer Twinkies than most road trippers would like.
So, you did all this for a Twinkie?
The film utilizes its setting and zombie conventions for some gloriously gory comedic moments, like the zombie kills
When's
of
part
the
2
week,
coming
one
out?
amazing celebrity cameo.
Someday.
I can't believe I shot. Hurry.
Despite all the stiffs, Zombieland also has a surprising heart, which, added to all the violence and laughs, makes for a truly memorable viewing experience. Before we get to our top pick, here are a few honorable mentions.
Tucker and Dale!
Aw. Kick ass for sure.
Hey, I said this.
Oh, Mance Raider.
Number 1, Hot Fuzz.
This is murder. It's not. It's ketchup.
When a hotshot London cop
There's
is
some pretty
reassigned to a
disturbing
sleepy
violence
village,
in this
he and
movie.
his bumbling partner
Guy's head
uncover
gets
a
crushed.
gruesome, murderous conspiracy.
All the violence
Like its
is like
creator's
horror
previous
movie
film, Shaun
violence.
of the Dead. Hot Fuzz is
Or at least
a
all the
loving
kills
send-up
are.
of a film genre. In this case, action movies. Hot Fuzz features an even better bromance than its predecessor, while also including a more memorable supporting cast and kicking the violence up to 11.
There it is.
Bloody
Yep,
and
yep,
bloody
yep.
hilarious throughout. Hot Fuzz is endlessly watchable and will have you cringing and laughing in equal measure.
Hey, why can't we say accident again?
Because accident implies there's nobody to blame.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out these other great clips from Watchmojo and subscribe for new videos every day.
Once again, Watchmojo has confused me on how they do their rankings.
And
Is
how
this
they define the category in itself.
Well, that's my point. My first question is this ranked off of best movie? Like, did they get a collection of 10 movies and then they rank them by which ones are the best, just overall films? Or did they rank this off of which one of these comedies is the most violent one? Then they went through the list there. Because when Evil Dead 2 popped up, like, pretty early on this list, I felt like
Yeah, I
Evil
feel
Dead
like
2
that
is
would be towards the top.
It's one of the more extreme ones. It's, like, very gory.
Yeah.
My second question is, are some of these actually considered comedies? I can get on board if it's like primarily a comedy or it's tied to be a comedy. Like Deadpool is an action comedy easily.
This is the End.
This is
it's
the
like
end.
a sci-fi horror comedy.
It to me that's a comedy first.
Yeah,
that makes
exactly.
sense. Hot Fuzz, action comedy first, action, spoof, whatever the hell you want to call it.
But like Crank, for
Crank,
example, feels
I'm
like
like-
an action movie that happens to have a humorous sensibility.
Yes.
Or
Seven Psychopaths. I know it falls under the dark comedy category, but that director, I always feel the darkness
Way more than
overpowering
comedy.
than the comedy
Yeah.
in his films.
or at least that's what I would reach for. They're funny in a way I wouldn't describe as just comedy.
Yeah,
you know?
it's like Snatch, while a hilarious film, I feel like it's primarily a gangster film first. Honestly, it's not that violent. Most of the violence that occurs in the movie is off camera. That was one thing I was kind of concerned about when I was going to first watch it when I was younger, because I was like 10 when it came out, was how gory is this going to be? And then most of like the brutal violence is all happening happening off camera, or you might cut to a dead body, but you don't see a lot of what goes on in here. So I was kind of surprised. Like, I think in its tone and its feeling and vibe, it feels more grisly than it actually is.
There are a lot of movies like that generally too, especially, I mean, when you get into crime and horror, I think because context can make things seem so much more gruesome than they actually are.
Team America World Police, I could kind of knock it off only because of the fact that it's puppets. It's you get away with a lot of violence, and it's just automatically funny, and it's not really like, ooh, this is violent.
Yeah, I don't know. See, that's another one where I feel like it earns its place on the list arguably better than a Crank does for me, because I'm like, well, the point of this is that it's funny and they are lampooning over-the-top violence.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's something about that where it doesn't feel quite like the violence is authentic or real, or there's like a key, crucial element of crunch that just isn't present in Team America's violence because of how silly it's all meant to be, because, yeah, you're undercutting the violence with the puppets.
Whereas I feel like movies like This Is the End, those are movies that can be shockingly violent.
And the violence then becomes an element of the comedy because of how much contrast there is to what the characters are doing. And
because similar to Pineapple Express, which both have moments where there's shocking violence, there's that after effect of it's so funny because of how violent it is, but it's also has certain scenes where the violence is not meant to be funny. It's like they would balance it out, where you have like, okay, they show that clip in Pineapple Express, Gary Cole shoots a guy in by the window, and it's not a funny death scene. It's funny of how Seth Rogen's like smoking and he's like, oh, like freaking out while watching it. But the death itself isn't funny. But then there's a later shot where Danny McBride shoots a guy's foot. That's funny, you know, because it's so gory and such a ridiculous thing to shoot off, but it's really funny.
See, these lists make me wonder if the team over at Watchmojo sometimes like gets a prompt and is just left to kind of fill it in with however best they can.
I mean, these are all good movies, you know. I think they're all like great movies. I can't really think of what else to add on to this list.
I feel like something like Shoot 'Em Up would almost work better than Crank, because Shoot 'Em Up is kind of lampooning harder than Crank is.
I don't know if I'm like I just sometimes don't understand what the list is, but these are all good movies and they are all like funny, violent films.
They're all violent.
It's like if you're gonna put Crank on here, you could put like Drag Me to Hell or Army of Darkness or something. You could put like any of those films on here too. You know?
Totally.
Like they totally could have gotten honorable mentions. But then I guess my next question is, what year did this come out? This came out 2019. You could have put Drag Me to Hell on here. I think Deadpool 2 is more violent than Deadpool 1.
Yeah.
I honestly think Tucker and Dale versus Evil should have been on this list. I just don't think it's popular enough. It's a cult film.
It's not well enough known.
Yeah, and I think that's the reason why it's not on this list. But if anyone has seen Tucker and Dale versus Evil, there are deaths in that movie that are flat out just hysterical. Like, that was a random film I put on one day. I'd only seen the image and I've heard a couple people say it was funny. Knew nothing about it. It's violent as hell. It's super violent, but it's also hysterical. So if we want to talk about violent comedies, you could have easily knocked off a couple of these or one of these for Tucker and Dale. And I don't agree with the honorable mention section. Well, hey, I'm not dissing Watchmojo. They ask, do you agree with our list? All right.
This is the
I'm
whole
participating in the question right now.
Yeah, this is a list for me. I'm like, put some of those honorable mentions in the main list, remix the main list.
Yes.
You know, put some stuff behind some other stuff.
Well, either way, I'm glad they put this video together. These always make for fun topics. All right, guys. Well, what violent comedies do you wish were mentioned on here? Do you agree with Watchmojo's list? Comment below. You guys can subscribe to the Reject Nation. Click our notification bell, too. You can go ahead and check us out on Patreon. Hey, before we wrap this up, I want to give a Patron of the Day shout out to a man named Andrew Hayes. Listen, I got that Face App thing. Paid premium for it. $400 just so I could flash this image on screen. That's Andrew as an old guy.
Aww.
He's so old.
You're a gilf, man.
It's going to be my next month of shout outs.
Everyone's old. And then a month after that, make them like younger or do like hippie versions. This could be the shout out machine that keeps on giving.
I was laying in bed at 11:30 and then I was just finding a bunch of celebrity photos and changing the way they look for 2 hours.
How many of them were Mel Gibson faces?
First one was Mel Gibson. I wanted to see if I could take young Mel and make him look exactly like how he does.
Yeah, how accurate is this software?
Fine.